Hey guys, Dr. Matt Geller here from New Grad Optometry. I'm the founder of New Grad Optometry and the co-founder and CEO of Covalent Careers. We're doing another awesome Google Hangout tonight. This one is going to be very special. It's with a very good friend of mine, Dr. Justin Bazan. Dr. Bazan graduated in 2004 from SUNY College of Optometry and went on to start his own private practice in Park Slope, Brooklyn, Park Slope I. Awesome practice, really kind of changed the way that some practices were doing business in that area. So he has talked a lot about that topic and really has been a unique guy in that area. So we're already getting the glass of wine going. I got my water / coffee mug.
Water. I
And
should have put it in the mug like we're doing Good Morning America, right?
there you go.
I don't know what I'm drinking.
And in addition, we'll have the co-founder and COO of Smart Vision Labs coming into the talk later to talk about a little bit more of the ophthalmic equipment side of things. And so it's going to be a really cool Google Hangout, but we'll get started right away. So Justin, just give a quick introduction about yourself and kind of what you're focused on these days.
Absolutely, and Matt, thank you so much for having me. It's inspiring to see what you've accomplished, what you're up to, and how you're the visionary and the guy in optometry pushing things forward. So, man, it's really an honor to be here with you. You know, we go back to when you were second year, third year. What year were you in school?
Probably about second year when we first met. Probably second year, yeah.
Yeah, and I think I was actually doing one of the things that I'm passionate about, which is talking to students about you know, what their future career looks like. And it was, I think, at a private practice club where we kind of touched base initially, or maybe it might have been it was a VSP lecture at a private practice club, or it might have been a luncheon that I did. I'm not quite sure what it was, but I remember us kind of hitting it off and talking afterwards, and I recognize that in you, and I'm happy to see that you've continued and it's all come to fruition for you. So congrats, man, and good work.
Yeah, thanks, Justin. Yeah, I remember you brought in like every book that had inspired you during that time in your life, and I think we had commonality on a couple of different books, and you're talking about your Hawaii trip right after graduating and stuff, and so I was like, this guy's special. So I'm glad to have you back on again.
Thanks, my man. That's a good point. We should actually talk about the dedication to lifelong learning, not only in optometry, but just to try to better yourself as an individual. And the key to that is learning and exposure through that. I'm a voracious reader, and even when I left New York in December 23rd, and I got down to Austin, Texas a few days later, and I'm already amassing a library here. I can actually, since we're live, I can actually flip this around and show you the little library that I'm amassing right now. So for all you guys out there that are kind of wondering how you learn stuff, networking is great, but you also have to seek out things on your own. So you can see I have some books in here, Still Like an Artist, Get Social Mediology, How to Have Kick-Ass Ideas. These are the books that come with me pretty much everywhere I go. The one that you'll hear me lecture about is 201 Secrets of a High Performance Optometric Practice by Bob Lavoie. And another interesting book that's made an impact on my career is Influence. So I'm always out there trying to devour as much information I can that's going to make me better personally and professionally. And I found that having a healthy, strong library is one of the keys to success with that.
Yeah, I can't agree enough. I personally do audible.com. It's, I think, like $15 a month I pay. By far the most influential thing that I could possibly do with my time. Doing dishes, listening to a book. Playing with the cats, listening to a book. So it's great, yeah. And then I have a few in there that you had on your in your little bookshelf there. So yeah, absolutely, lifelong learning is the way to go. Now,
finding those opportunities is important too, because everybody has the same 24 hours in the day. It's what you do with those 24 hours. So like you said, how can you maximize your downtime? Doing the dishes and listening to an audiobook is fantastic.
Sure. Now, how did you take all of that or that philosophy and bring it into practice when you first graduated? I mean, what did that transition look like? You left SUNY in 04. How'd you get to Park Slope and Open and Cold and, you know, that whole jazz? And how'd you make it so special? You know, you brought in just art shows and beer tasting, and you really created for, you know, just a unique experience for the people in Park Slope, and we're a staple in the community. Tell us about that experience.
One of the things that I didn't do well while I was in school was network. We didn't have a private practice club. We didn't have groups like NGO out there at the time. It was really, I was an island once I got out. And I was also so sick and tired of living in New York City and having to pass up on all the opportunities and restaurants and shows because I was a broke ass student. So one of my goals was to work at a location that would give me the highest possible income, spend it all, and then within 5 years, eventually start a new business on my own. But it was those first 5 years that I planned to just make as much money as possible and enjoy it in New York City. People laugh at that goal, but that's exactly what I needed at that time. And that's exactly what I did. Well, almost did it. I was about 4 years in, and I was working commercial at Cohen's Fashion Optical, a large regional chain. I was not only the doctor, but I was also co-managing a couple of locations, one on 50th and 3rd, one on 76th and Broadway. And we were doing really well. Those two locations historically were not huge generators of income for the company, but they wanted to see what a young kind of passionate doctor could do there. And just in a couple of years, we were able to turn that both of those locations around, and we pretty much doubled the gross income of those locations within a few short years. The key to success there was, as is in most businesses, was wowing the patients, providing a little bit extra so they would have an experience that was just better or different than what they were accustomed to. So in a lot of commercial settings, what people are accustomed to is the doctor just kind of spinning and grinning and getting them out the door.
Mm-hmm.
There wasn't a real chance to make any connections. There wasn't a chance to take care to a level that was much elevated above the, here's your prescription, I'll see you in a year. And lucky if they even said, I'll see you in a year. So providing experiences where I tried to do things to connect with patients just blew people away. It wasn't anything more than some simple things that I picked up through reading books and through observing great doctors and then implementing it in my own private practice. So touch points such as just saying, if you have any follow-up questions, here's my email. Okay, here I started a patient blog. Topics included is such as diseases that I'd commonly see, GPC. Here's a little bit more information because I only have 10 to 15 minutes to spend with you now, but I want you to read what I wrote about this in my blog post. So doing things like that, we saw a tremendous impact to word of mouth, and building businesses word of mouth is one of the best things that you can do. And it's your job to figure out how to generate those word of mouth responses. So that was 4 years in. I was approached by the CFO of the company to have lunch. He said, pick any spot you want. Let's meet up. Let's have lunch. There's some things I want to talk to you about. I was really excited because at this point in time where the numbers were doubled and we were busy, and patient satisfaction was through the roof, I thought I might be up for an award. Maybe they'd have a statue created of me, something like that along the lines. However, that lunch conversation went very different. Can you guess what happened at that lunch conversation that might have gone my way?
You may have gotten fired.
I got fired. Now, people are always surprised by that. They're like, if you were the top doc in a company and all these patients loved you, why did you get canned? Are there new grads out there right now able to respond and type in answers?
Yeah, guys, if you want to ask questions and type in stuff, just visit us on the Google Plus page where this is being hosted. The link for that is also on newgradoptometry.com. The first image you'll see is of the graphic for this Google Hangout, and then the link to go ahead and ask questions is within there towards the bottom.
And please shoot questions if you have anything, or comments even.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have a comment as to why I might have gotten fired, type it in now. The answer to that question actually has a lot to do with the effectiveness of my marketing and branding at the time. They felt that if patients were coming to see me as Dr. Bazan, the level of care that I was providing, the connections that I made, they were worried what would happen if I ever left. They wanted people to come in for the 2 for $99 special, not because Dr. B is a great doctor. That may or may not have changed depending on who you talk to, but that's a little cautionary tale and a little bit of glimpse into how you have to be cautious about how good you actually are in certain settings and certain environments. So I was basically given the ultimatum that I needed to cease having these connections with patients. The blog had to come down, or basically the blog goes or you go. Didn't make it through that lunch meeting. I actually got up at that point and said, I'm out of here. I went back, finished up my day of patients, thinking maybe there might be something going on. But what happened when I looked out of the exam room, there was a security guard with a cardboard box saying you have 10 minutes to put your stuff in the box and get out. You're no longer welcome or an employee of this company. So on the day that I thought I was going to get a promotion, I got canned. That was 4 years in, so I didn't quite make my goal, but it was the impetus to start private practice. And it was just the kind of kick in the ass that I needed to say, hey, you can do this on your own. While I was at that location, though, I wasn't just kind of spinning and grinning. I was soaking up the wealth of knowledge that you can find pretty much in any situation that you find yourself in. So I was in a commercial. I was still learning. I learned merchandising. I learned marketing. I learned all the opticianry skill set. I learned how to sell. Very important for my future success. So Cohen's, for what it's worth, did provide me with some things that I never got in school, and there were things that were very valuable to me in my future career and future endeavors. So that is something that was wonderful that came about it, even though it was kind of an abrupt termination at the time. It really felt like the dagger in the heart. You help them out, and then that's the thanks you get kind of deal. But it really did get me started with private practice. So as you know, you just can't open your door, say, here I am, here's a private practice. So in the interim, I started to do a lot of fill-in work. And it was where I was working, I learned about things that I thought I would like to incorporate into my practice. And more importantly, things that I didn't want or ever want, or hopefully never put a patient through. So by seeing a variety of different practices all across, New York City, heck, I was even working in Staten Island at one point. I was learning things to implement and learning things to never do. So I began to kind of self-study what makes good practices good and what makes mediocre practices not so good. So I learned, I took notes, and I found solutions to some of the issues that I was dealing with. I also began to start to network on my own. I said, who are the top docs in New York City? Let me contact them, see what's up, pick their brain over lunch or drink or whatever, and try to form some network of advisors. And I began to do that, and I found a couple good ones. In New York City, there's a lot of people who kind of are opposed to getting help, and even more so opposed to giving help. So that actually was more surprisingly difficult than I imagined. I was lucky enough to get teamed up with some really good people, and it was awesome having them as the support system. When we opened our practice, was in 2008. And at the time, the lending climate was a little bit different. This was before the housing market crashed. So I was applying to get money in early 2008. I talked to business owners. I utilized the score.org website, the Small Business Owners Association, whatever that was, SBA. .gov was also helpful. Getting out in my market and seeing the neighborhoods on foot. I used to carry a notepad, a little voice recorder, a camera, and I used to go out and study the marketplace. I determined what their strengths were, what their weaknesses were, where their opportunities were, and I saw how that I could fit into that sphere. So when I opened up in Park Slope, it wasn't just because I heard it's a nice neighborhood, it was because I did my research on it. And I went out and I said, even though there's 17 providers within 20 blocks, I can do things a little bit different, and I can find way into this market, and I can make myself a presence and a force to be reckoned with. So it was an educated, calculated decision to go out and do that after some good research. Mm-hmm. Applying for a loan, I used a specialty lending company. At the time, it was called Matsko. They specialize in startups, cold startups for dentists, vets, ODs, and maybe a couple other subspecialties. And it was pretty easy to get the money at the time. I remember a phone call. And this is where interpersonal skills come into play. Over the phone call, we were able to, I guess he's a loan officer, whoever was help pushing the loan application along. We bonded. We had great rapport over the phone, which is a skill set that I'm worried about the new grads watching this. I don't know if they're as good as some of the other docs who have a couple of years on them over the phone. So if the last time you used your phone to actually talk to somebody was more than a week ago, you give mom a call. She'd love to hear from you, and it's good practice because people still do conduct business on the phone. Yeah. Hi, Mom. My mom and your mom are probably the only two people watching this right now, right?
My mom was just mad at the last Google Hangout. I didn't shave my beard enough, so she's probably laughing.
Oh, it looks good. It's well trimmed. So after I talked to him on the phone, he's like, it's a technicality, but you got to submit me a business plan so I have something to show these guys who are underwriting the loan money. At the time, I was also very conservative with the funding that I was going to get. But since I talked to so many people who are business owners, I said, well, when I'm taking out money, I know my expenses for equipment and build out. But what I didn't know at the time was I needed money for paying the employees and paying myself. So I underestimated by about $25,000 to $30,000 that I went back and I redid the amount I was asking for. So I came in just under $250,000. That is no small lump sum to invest on top of student loans. Now, I don't know if those opportunities to start cold and get $250,000 exist, which is why one of the things that we're going to touch upon in a few minutes is how to start a practice. And I can get that practice number down to probably under $15,000.
Oh, no
So
way.
going from $250,000 to $15,000 some of your ears should spark up there.
Yeah.
But to give you the quick summary of that, got the money, opened up cold, and right from the start, I implemented those things that I thought that I could do in the marketplace that were a little bit different. One was that as a doctor, I wanted to make sure that the personal and professional connection were as strong as possible. So just doing some things like, introducing myself or asking, genuinely caring how about someone's day was, or how can I make that day better? What are they here for? What are their problems, and taking care of them, and uncovering, unmet needs or providing anticipatory care, all in an environment that was different from what they were used to. So when you made your appointment, you weren't calling somebody and talking to somebody or being put on hold or let me get back to you or I'll have to call you back or getting a busy signal. Right from the start, I said, is there a better way to make appointments? And we went all online from day one. So our online scheduling system was something that was different at the time. And actually to this day, it's still pretty different. There's not a majority of people who still are all online. And we're totally online. We don't even have a phone in our office. We did in the beginning, but when we evaluated pros and cons of that phone, we knew that we were able to eliminate it. Again, it's not like we made some brash decision saying, screw the phone today, we're done with it, it gave us a headache. No, we sat there and we evaluated its worthiness, and it came out that we actually could find ways that were better than having somebody man the phone all day. When you came in, we focused on hospitality. When's the last time you were offered a local craft beer at any office, let alone your eye doctors? That's a moment of wow when a patient gets that. Even if they don't want it as an option, it was presented to them in a way where they said, wow. Or hold up your mug for a second. Hold up your mug.
Here you go.
That whole branding of the mug where we hand somebody a mug and say, what would you like to fill us with? Today's beverage selection is water, tea, juice, or Brooklyn Lager. Yep. And then when they were done with the mug, they would be like, well, what do I do with this? We say, that mug is yours. Let me go wash it out for you, and we'll have it here when you're ready to check out. Sure. Another wow point. Also good marketing, because when's the last time you threw out a mug? Seriously, you don't throw mugs out.
I got a lot of mugs. I love my mugs.
Exactly. We're working on koozies for this spring, so we're going to switch it up to koozies. But we also do lip balm as a check-in gift, right? So we're looking for ways to provide people with a unique experience that they probably have not had, at least in my immediate kind of draw in my neighborhood, in my setting. Mm-hmm. Then we focused in on adding technology that wowed patients. What are the two things that people hate when they go to the eye doctor?
The NCT air puff. That's why we got rid of it.
And that damn puff test. And
yeah, there's a few. I mean, let's see. There's that. There's just the whole experience of the frustration with the refraction and just the hate that comes with that. Those are the two that I particularly find in practice myself.
Absolutely. Which is better, one or two? Are there ways to improve that experience? The puff test is definitely number one. And we went to a handheld portable device that was the eye care tonometer. And we got that back in 2008 when I think the company was pretty new. So we knew that having a device that was less intimidating and didn't have that stigma of that puff that has ruined at least 4 or 5 generations of patients for us. The new kids, by the way, that have come to my office never know what the puff is, so they have no idea what you're talking about when you talk to them about the puff. And then how do we get the refraction to a pleasant experience as well? And a device that we've recently implemented has done that. Anytime you have a device where you have to put somebody's head into something, they immediately get worried that it's the puff test. It adds a level of anxiety. If we can remove that level of anxiety along with some other benefits, we feel that that's a nice choice for our practice. And the Smart Vision Labs SVOne handheld wavefront aberrometer autorefractor was the device that did that. The other thing that we help to reduce is the frequency and the amount of indications for patient dilation. So we are finding that the Optos Daytona was another piece of equipment that we implemented at the right time in our cold start business to really help. So those were three things that kind of changed the experience of a typical visit that patients who have grown accustomed to, kind of almost accepting as norm, but really disliking, and then really loving once we found solutions to those issues.
Sure. So I'm gonna interject real quick. So that's fantastic. First off, there's two questions. They want to know the blog that if it was hosted by Cohen's. I'm sure that blog is done by now, right?
That blog's still there if you want to check it out. It's let's see, justinbazan.wordpress.com. Okay, so you can go check that blog out. That blog was not hosted by Cohen's, and here's the ironic part. About a year later, they implemented their own blog, and they won an award for social media. So,
oh man, that's a mess.
The social media award came, I think, 2011. So that was probably 5-6 years after I got canned. But it's ironic that they are now developing that. I was just too futuristic for them.
There you go. And Rachel Jahala she's going to be going into optometry school, and she's just asking any tips. I'll give you just one sentence: work as hard as you possibly can, and just know deep within that you're going to get in, and everything passes through that, you'll get in. And Dr. Calderon says NCT and dilation. He got it right.
Yeah. So if you're trying to get into a specific school, look in the eye doctors in your area to see if they've graduated from that school. Getting experience and a good letter of recommendation from an alumni they like. So probably don't use me if it's them. But if getting a recommendation from an alumni you like and experience with them will go a long way and help you stand out and help your application rise up and look different than a lot of the others.
Got it, Justin. I'm going to ask you another question, but real quick, Kevin Sema wanted to know the IOP measurement you switched to. He said his video was buffering, and it was the eye care thermometer. Yep, that's what we use as well. It's a great instrument. Now, just give me the rundown before we bring Mark on. If you were to do it all again for less, how do you go about everything from starting a business, filing the articles of incorporation, picking a company, all the way through buying equipment? And then once you end with the buying equipment side, we'll bring Mark on and start talking about, that whole side of things. But give me that kind of, get 7 minutes or so to kind of run through that. If you would crash course, how to get started in practice. And I'll interject with anything that I find valuable as well.
It's pretty easy to file articles of incorporation. After I got fired, I said, I need a break. So I went to Hawaii just for a little R&R. I was reading a book called The E-Myth. And what The E-Myth did, it helped me understand that, just because I was a good eye doctor and I can do an eye exam that people love, did I have the skill set that it took to actually own an optometric practice and be a business owner? Well, the resounding answer was yes. And after reading that book, I was so inspired. I finished up my lava flow, got up from underneath the palm tree, and headed right into the business center at the resort that I was staying at. I jumped online and I went to file articles of incorporation online right then and there. So starting a business, at least formally, can be done in a matter of minutes online. Mm-hmm. The second thing that you need to do is you got to go to irs.gov, and that's where you're going to file for your tax ID number. So you need to incorporate with your articles of incorporation on a state, and then you need, on a federal level, you need your tax ID number. So it's amazingly how quick you get a response back from your tax ID number. I think it's literally within 10 minutes. Which is no joke, because the government, if you're trying to give them money, of course they're quick and easy. Yeah. Good luck trying to get money back from Medicare and that whole process. So it's funny how efficient the government can be when they need to be to get money from you.
Yep, I can. So after getting the EIN is very quick, and just depending on what type of company you want to set up, an LLC or sole proprietorship or whatever it is fairly easy as well. Just contact the basic business law, business attorney, corporate attorney.
Yep, working with a good CPA can also help steer you in that direction. I'm a little adverse to lawyers for a few different reasons, but I think a CPA that you're already working with, if you're working on your personal taxes, that might be a good start to find out what business entity is the right one to form for you. So good advice. After the business is set up, you're going to need to start to visualize how you want your practice to be. I was a very visual person, so I started to acquire print magazines and online magazines from Optometric Management, and some of the other ones, where I would actually clip, cut, copy, and paste what I wanted my office to look like as far as the physical fixtures, the equipment, a rough idea of the space that I wanted. And then I took those things, and if it was in real life, I would actually have a flip chart that I'd rip the flip charts off and stick them on my wall in my apartment. And I would continuously kind of work on it, and I would see it, and I would have that always around, and I'd be immersed in the environment of my business. And that was helpful for developing it, because believe it or not, what I put up on the walls came to fruition, and it actually happened. And I think a lot that had to do with it was subconsciously always playing on my mind, and I was refining it and making it better and making it the way I wanted it. Mm-hmm. We talked a little bit about getting the loans, and then we started to discuss what business equipment was important at the time. Because I had a physical space, I said, I need equipment that's just necessary for me to provide thorough care. So what are some of those things that I need, right? If people want to type in, what are some of those things? The bare essentials. I needed equipment to ensure the eyeball was healthy. So I needed a slit lamp. I needed equipment to ensure that I was able to provide refractions. Okay, so I needed a phoropter and an eye chart. I needed equipment to ensure that the posterior segment the eyeball was healthy. So I had dilation drops, a BIO. I needed a place for patients. So I needed some furniture, right? I needed examining furniture. So I went through, and those were the decisions on my mind. At the time, there was an Optos, but it wasn't a Daytona unit, so I kind of didn't feel that was going to be a good first initial purchase. But the basic equipment was really just basic. Some of it we got at new, some of it we got secondhand, some of it was refurbished. I tried to make sure that the equipment that people paid attention to had a wow factor, and it didn't look like it was beat down secondhand. There's a great piece of advice that I heard from somewhere, and I wish I knew the source, but it's the longer you look like a secondhand attorney, the longer you'll be a secondhand attorney or second-rate attorney. Mm-hmm. And that spoke to me, saying not to go crazy and have a $1 million practice with loans that I can't possibly pay back, but to be conscious of what appearances and experiences people had. So going for equipment that created that positive experience was important to me, which is one of the reasons why we had eye care right off the bat. Sure, I could have got a $700 Goldman in the exam lane, but I went with the eye care tonometer at the time, which cost, at the time, probably about 6 times, 6 or actually more than that, 7 or 8 times as much as that Goldman. But I knew that it was going to create the experience that I wanted my patients to have, so they'd have word of mouth come back and generate that good buzz marketing for me.
Sure.
Nowadays, you've got to be excited where optometry is at. You guys that are looking to go to optometry school, you guys that are in optometry school, you guys that are just out of optometry school, and you guys who are actually been practicing for years in optometry, all have to feel pretty exciting about the opportunities that are coming towards us with all this new technology. Now, disruption and disruptive technology can do a couple of things to a person. When I say the word disruptive to somebody who's pissed off at optometry already for whatever variety of reasons, they think disruption is going to be the further doom and put a nail in their coffin, right? But when me and Matt get together and we're hanging out, when we talk about disruption, we get excited because we see potential and we see opportunities. And not only do we see the potential, and if there's an opportunity, but we also see opportunities that we create. And, being a part of something like NGO, you're going to see practitioners start to develop new opportunities with new equipment and new ways to practice, new modalities, or new spins on old modalities. And what we didn't really talk about is why I'm in Texas right now. So starting a practice cold in 2008, my main goal was to have that practice of Park Slope Eye give the experience to the patient, regardless of who was there as staff, personnel, or doctor. So I wanted to create that overall impact that was much like a prototype. And we have tons of protocols in place, so that experience is universal, regardless of the face that the patient sees that. It was always my intention to kind of separate myself from that and let the experience of Park Slope Eye be the main attraction, not Dr. Bazan. Which I learned my lesson in Cohen's, actually, which helped learn my lesson in Cohen's. So very quickly on, I knew I needed to set it up in a way where I would have the freedom and flexibility to have a business, but then also be not tied to it like it was an anchor.
Mm-hmm.
I think what's appealing to a lot of new grads is freedom and flexibility in their work life and have a balance between their work life and their personal life. Does that resonate well with some of the new grads?
Yeah, I'd say so.
I hope so.
Got a few comments here related to that. Sure.
Good. So striking that balance in a traditional practice modality is a little bit hard to do, especially if you're not the owner, or especially if you're the owner who has kind of tied themselves to that practice. One of the things that I was fortunate enough to do was to have awesome staff and have systems in place where I was able to monitor the health of the business from remote locations. My first trial run was back in 2011, where I took a position with a company that kept me on the road 5 days a week, and I had to run the business remotely, which was I did that for a year, and it proved to be very successful. Right now, I'm taking 3 months completely away from my practice, whereas that 1 year period, I'd go back every weekend and work in the practice and work on the practice. Right now, I'm taking 3 months completely away from my private practice in Brooklyn, and I'm exploring new opportunities, utilizing new technology and networking to and be extra happy away from the blizzard that has taken over the Northeast. So I'm lucky because we have set it up so the business has been successful, and that was a goal of ours. And now I'm down here in Austin, Texas, kind of enjoying things and being out of the cold weather. One of the things that's enabled me to do that has establishing a reputation in the industry. The blog started it all. Voicing my opinion and providing helpful, useful information that people want was a foundation. And I continued that, and I continued to be vocal, and I continued to be innovative and a thought leader in the industry. And I continued to build more side channels of income and revenue in optometry. Optometry is an amazing, amazing, amazing choice of career because it's not just seeing patients. There are so many opportunities beyond just seeing patients for you. You can get involved in the industry. If you have ideas and you want your ideas out there, you can get involved in writing. Once you do writing, you can do lecturing. Once you do lecturing, you get invited for ad boards and advisory boards and committees. And there's so many different ways you can kind of spin your optometry career. It's really what you make it. You're not limited to staying inside that traditional box of the seeing patients is all I do. That's great if you like that, but if you're like me and you want some diversity and flexibility in your careers, you can venture out. The tree of optometry is not just a couple branches. It's a very diverse and wide tree with a lot of branches and a lot of opportunities. The thing that I'm working on now is that the technology side of optometry has pretty much allowed me to put an office. And I'm not talking about the mobile eye care of the past where you kind of did screenings at locations, but a true comprehensive eye care experience is now able to fit inside of a 29-inch spinner suitcase. And I'm going to quickly flip the camera over to the suitcase, and I'll open it up. And Matt, do we have time to go over some of the equipment in it?
Yeah, we do, Justin. We do. We could go a little bit longer. We'll get Mark on in the next 5 minutes or so.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to go through some quick stuff here. All right. I'm going to angle this down here so you guys can see it. All right. So in the suitcase, I have, I'll hold it up as I go. I try to replicate the in-office experience with stuff in the suitcase. I'm very hands-on. I always carry a model of an eyeball for patient education, trusty flippers, Amsler grid reading card, Now, collecting payment on the road, a lot of people will use Square or an online processor. You have to have a signature pad, so, and a swiper. I have the ability to take my iPhone and make it an anterior segment camera with this universal adapter. So able to provide anterior seg imaging is a capability. On the flip side of that, I have the ability to do posterior seg as well. Somewhere in here. Actually, I left it at the office. I have a 3D printed posterior segment attachment to the iPhone as well. I have all the things that I need to do for like foreign body removal, even betadine lavage, you know, just your general pharmaceutical stuff. I have contact lens and glasses accessories, and then the real cool part is all the equipment that I have over here. So, are you able to see these equipment over here?
Yeah, we can see them.
Hey, this is an eye care tonometer case. Okay. So again, it's giving a patient an experience that they much prefer over the dreaded air puff in a portable mobile setting.
Can you take it out?
Say that again?
Can you take out the tonometer?
Sure.
I know some people may have never seen it, so.
Okay, so it's a very portable and handheld device that's non-intimidating for the patient. No puff. Patients barely feel anything, if anything at all. I have dilation specs, pyramid, prescription pads. I have still found a use for good old-fashioned diagnostic equipment. I don't use the retina too much anymore, but there's definitely times where you'll need the transilluminator or direct or your panoptic. And then, Matt, do you know what's in this box?
That may be the SVOne.
No, this box is way too big for the SVOne.
I can't. Oh, there. Yeah, that looks pretty big, actually. What do you got in there?
This box is the slit lamp.
Oh, sweet.
It's a handheld slit lamp. Okay, so little handheld slit lamp right there. This I can put the anterior segment, not the anterior segment, but the ocular adapter on here, and I can get very high quality anterior segment images with this. Like I said, I do have one for the posterior segment. I just actually left it at work because the place that I did a fill-in at didn't have a posterior segment camera. All right, then I have lensometer. I feel like finding out what's in somebody's habitual glasses is important to have that. I'm working on getting my UV meter in as well. And what you don't see in here is I'm actually, it should be being shipped to me any day now, but I actually have a handheld phoropter, so it's going to be replacing my trial lens set. Right now I'm doing trial frame refractions, but this will hopefully replace the trial lenses. So it's a small handheld phoropter that will be added to this suitcase very soon, which is why I had left room in the suitcase for that device. Also able to pack with me if I wanted to start a specialty practice for scleral lenses or orthokeratology. Those little kits and cases are very, very mobile and portable too. So another business opportunity may be just renting office space and starting a specialty practice, utilizing some of these mobile tools and going from there. But the most impressive piece of equipment in this suitcase full of wonders is the SVOne. So again, it's really small. I mean, this is my hand right here, and this is the whole case for it. Okay? And I was lucky enough to be on the lookout for new technology and have friends who are kind of innovative and always looking out for new technology to get put onto the SVOne very early on, and we've been working with it for about a year now. And there is a unit in my office, and then I have a unit right here.
You're good, Mark. Yep. we'll let Justin keep talking about it. We got just perfect timing here. Mark Albanese, co-founder and COO of the Smart Vision Labs, the piece of equipment that Justin's holding. So Justin, keep talking about it, and then we'll kind of fold Mark into the loop.
Hey Mark, it's good to see you.
Hey Justin, how you doing?
Fantastic. I'm just telling everybody how amazing your device is and how it fits right into my little travel suitcase here, so I can take it wherever I need to. So I was just asking the audience if they recognize this device right here hooked up to the aberrometer, and just like the audience tonight, your patients are going to recognize this device too. It's an iPhone, and specifically this is an iPhone 5. So again, just like finding ways to improve patient experience with the Puff, this is ways to find and improve the patient experience with an iPhone and their autorefractor. So instead of the intimidating kind of put your head in a machine that you still, even though we told you it's not a puff test, you're still scared that it's a puff test and creating some anxiety. Now all we say is we have this amazing new device that helps the doctor figure out your best prescription, and it's based here right with this iPhone, and all you have to do is look here, right? So I have this ability to provide a better patient experience. Now, if that was the only thing it did, maybe or maybe not I would have it, but it opens up the opportunity much more than that. You know, we can see this device being implemented in a ton of different settings in a ton of different ways, but Mark will tell you more about that. In my office, it has helped streamline and improve the patient experience and also provide me with better data points so that the refraction that we do isn't the grueling, which is better 1 or 2, right? We take a good patient history, we talk to the patient, and then I know that I have solid wavefront aberrometry, the basis for my starting point to do this objective. And in my office, objectives have gone from taking a few minutes to taking literally under a couple of minutes, and the patient is much happier, and the results are much better. Here, while I'm in Texas,
is there a way to show you using it? Do you have enough, enough of that ability to do it on yourself now and show the screen, or that can be tricky?
I didn't charge it today.
Okay.
I should have. I totally should have charged it. Yeah, sorry. Mark's got one, and Mark's going to demo it. Sorry, I screwed that up. You guys should have given me the reminder to charge it up. I apologize, guys. It does create basically hundreds of points of data that are then used, and Mark will go through the technology. You don't want to hear from me. It works, and it works really well. What it's done for me, though, is it's given me all types of ideas on how to implement technology like this SVOne and think about new creative ways that I can find the freedom and flexibility in practicing optometry. I'm currently developing a plan to provide semi-permanent, temporary, almost as if you want to call it a pop-up shop, optometric experiences for companies and groups of individuals down here in this local community. So it's giving me the opportunity for my business sense to kind of run wild and create new opportunities where they may not have existed because we were tied to traditional equipment or traditional exam settings. So the kind of possibilities that we're seeing with technology like this are really just starting to emerge, and I look forward to seeing what some of you guys will come up with once you hear a little bit more about the device and figure out ways how to implement this into a career for you that it combines all of the aspects of what you want as a positive impact on your life, and then you have the ability to do it with technology like this. I'm also working on providing care in a mobile setting, and my good buddy Vinny Calderon should be on the line with Aspire Health. He's also got interesting modes of practice, but man, this is a fantastic, fantastic time to be optometry. So many possibilities are emerging. So many ways where you can kind of reinvent your career, reinvigorate it, or get it off started in a completely revolutionary direction.
Yeah. Well, I first met Mark at Vision Expo, and he used the device on me, which it nailed my prescription. And I'm a weird hyperopic astigmat, and usually it's very difficult. Go figure, right? And for me, when I started in practice just almost 3 years ago, the thing that made me great in the community was seeing pediatric patients, and it wasn't something I wanted to go into in optometry school that much. It was one of the more difficult populations, and for me, I mean, you could look at you Google me or Yelp me rather, and see all the pediatric comments that mothers left for me about how I was good with their children, and doing pediatrics is what made me a staple in San Diego at the time, being a young doc. And having something like the SVOne would have been so helpful, because there's nothing worse than doing RET on a 1 or 2 year old that's squirming and running around all over the floor, and you're really sweating bullets because you don't know if you're going to get the prescription right. So I wish this thing was I had it back when I first started, and I think the SVOne is one of the more attractive things in that sense for young pediatric patients and difficult things. Francis Liu, a good friend of mine, Dr. Liu, just asked, do you still do retinoscopy in addition to the SVOne? And I'll let Mark touch on some of those things. They just did a fantastic study with SUNY. But anyway, we've got Mark Albanese here. He is the co-founder and COO of Smart Vision Labs, which is a startup out of New York City currently, and they're doing absolutely fantastic things both in the startup realm, which is near and dear to my heart, but also just really changing the way that optometry is kind of looking at technology and looking at equipment. And so let's transition over to Mark. Mark, I'll let you take it away, and I'll just ask a few questions in the meantime. And Justin, feel free to touch in on what Mark's talking about in relation to your specific experience with the SVOne.
Great. Well, thanks so much for inviting me out here. This is a lot of fun. And Justin, I really learned a lot listening to you today. I know we've been out a bunch of times, but I got some really good stories here, and I'm excited to learn more later. So yeah, I'd love to tell you about the company. I know that there's a lot of interest in really how we got started, especially as we're talking about startup practices. Really the idea came from my co-founder, Yaoping Zhou, who a couple of years ago read an article about 1 billion people worldwide not getting vision care, not getting glasses, because really 2 big problems. 1, not enough people to actually perform refractions, and 2, the technology is either too expensive, too difficult to use, or just too bulky. Now the backstory is Yaoping and I, 10 years prior, were in a lab building really modern and innovative technology for scanning laser ophthalmoscopes for diabetic retinopathy testing. And Yaoping had the vision, what if we took the concepts behind that work and married it with the supercomputer in our pocket, the iPhone? Because a lot of the expense comes from the computer, the camera, and the iPhone 5S is actually just as powerful, if not more powerful, than the computers we were using over 10 years ago. And that's really kind of how we got started. And then we just had a hell of a lot of good luck. We won business plan competitions, and then in January 2014, we won $1 million through the Verizon Powerful Answers Foundation. They really saw what this could do for the world. So that gave us the opportunity to just prototype, interview doctors to really learn about what they need in a device like this. And ultimately, we had a working prototype for the summer of 14. We brought it down to a mission trip with some great docs that we met along the way. Part of Vosh PA, went down to Haiti, and the response was just phenomenal. And that's where I knew that seeing it being used in that environment was a realization of what we've been doing in the last few years, that this is going to have an impact. But then seeing the doctors, largely U.S. doctors up from the Vosh chapter, use the technology, be impressed, going, wow, I think we have something here that could really work for a lot of people. And then we brought the technology to Vision Expo, did pre-sales, and really the rest is history. We've had a fantastic year last year, selling out every run of equipment that we had. Really exciting for the company. And this past year we raised our Series A, which for us is validation that the investors believe in what we're doing, that there's a huge runway for it. So some of the exciting things that have happened this past year, and you alluded to, was our clinical study that we completed over at your guys' alma mater at SUNY with Dr. Ken Kafrania and Mark Rosa. Yeah, great institution. We literally are about a quarter of a mile away. We pick our locations wisely. And we had a great study, 50 patients, and this was published in the OVS journal back in December. 50 patients using our device, manifest refraction retinoscopy, a RetinaMax, and a Topcon wafer analyzer. And the net of it is that we had a 96% correlation.
Wow.
Which is subjective. and we obliterated the Retinamax. We have very little accommodation. So when you mentioned testing kids, you're going to see a lot of that myopic instrument-induced myopia. But by just having them look at 10 feet across from them, it's great. And usually kids see the iPhone and they're like, "Oh, that's just like mommy or daddy's," and they just stand still. So we had a really great response there.
I wish I had that.
Yeah, we just completed another study, which I can't get into too much detail because it hasn't been published yet, with pediatrics, and I can't wait to share with you guys in a couple months. It was really another slam dunk. So yeah, we're thrilled here at Smart Vision. A lot of good stuff happening.
Nahal Houston wants to know how much is an SVOne compared to a traditional autorefractor.
Great question. So our device, our SVOne, runs at $39.50. So if you were gonna buy another portable device, you could look at the Retinamax, which is roughly $12,000. So you can buy a couple more SVOnes for the Retinamax, and standard autorefractors can run anywhere from 7 to 20, depending on bells.
That's see, I think first off, I think there may be a misnomer out there that people look at this and they maybe categorize you or put you guys, Smart Vision Labs, into a bucket as one of these companies that's going to kind of erode optometry in a way or bring business away from the office. And I think that, to be honest with you, all cards on the table, when I first got the gist of it, I was like, oh, that's what they're doing. And then shortly after a minute of learning about you guys, I realized that wasn't the case at all. Can you touch on how really you're helping docs and you're not in that bucket of online eye exams and things like that, or how you don't intend to say, download this from the App Store and you won't have to go to an eye doctor?
Right. So the first side of it is the device itself, which Justin, I'll do a demo later. This one's charged. The device itself is a wafer aberrometer. It's not just an app. So this is the wafer aberrometry Shaq-Hartman technology. So it's not just something you can do online, right? That's a number one big difference. But I think, Matt, the way that you and I got introduced was actually your partner in crime, Antonio. And a couple years ago, I somehow got connected with him, and I asked him about what he's doing. He was in a new practice, and he was going out doing corporate screenings, going to malls, going to wherever. So I think it was in Pennsylvania somewhere, maybe it was Pittsburgh, trying to find new clients. And I get it. I mean, in all the customer surveys we did, the biggest issues we come across is, one, refractions take too damn long, and two, new customers. And so, we've done our own internal studies here in New York. We've hired doctors to go out and test corporations and go to schools and go wherever just to really get the data. In this really populated area where there's doctors everywhere, how many people have a current prescription? And what we found is over roughly the past 3 months, 35% of the people we tested have a visual acuity of 20/40 or worse, which means they failed the DMV. So my view is that you have massive opportunity to reach people that don't go to the eye doctor. And the key to it is to get them to you. And the technology that we have allows you to go out there and do these kind of screenings to then effectively bring them back and close the loop with them. Mm-hmm. So this in itself of being a really accurate autorefractor, I think is a magnificent lead generation tool. And it's a way to bring more people into optometry than the opposite. I
used to go door to door in my old in the old place where I was practicing, and that would have been a nice little tool to say, "Hey, let me give you an eye," and then come in from the other eye. Can you show us how it works? Go ahead and do it on yourself.
Yeah, well, I actually have Jessie with me, who just in case this came up. Jessie's our marketing manager. She's going to come over and say hi.
Hey, Jessie.
Hi, everyone.
Great. So there's an app that I clicked. I don't know if you can see it there. I turn the light source on, and it's really as easy as bringing it up to her eye, right, like this, and you hit the button. And that's it. And then it'll generate the prescription, and it'll save it online. And the neat thing too, and Justin can mention this, is that we've spent a lot of time perfecting it, but we're always out there making it even better. Mm-hmm. The first iteration of software was, from the 100 doctors that we had first sold to, we learned from them. We made another iteration. We made it faster. We made it sleeker. And then that group helped us with the next iteration. So if you think about, your current autorefractor in your practice, if you have feedback, what are the odds of that making it into the software upgrade or anything in the future for it? We can actually do something on a more regular basis than we have been. And I think our doctors really appreciate that we can make these type of upgrades.
It reminds
I
me of
want to touch on that point. This is a company that truly cares about seeing you guys develop as optometrists, and they listen to you. They want to know how to make your practice more successful and what ways their device can help you do that. So it's a very responsive company, and I can tell you right now that if you are ever in New York City and you want to sit down with these guys, I'm going to say that they're about 100% accepting of all, opportunities to meet with somebody that's interested. Is that true, Mark? You guys want
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep. Come on by. Again, we are about a 5-minute walk from SUNY, so we're a lot of the people listening probably know where that is, but we're right at Grand Central. So you want to come by, get a demo, talk about us, hear what we're up to. Happy to do it.
Yeah, I can't stress enough, just being, when I first got started, I've worked at 3 different practices, and at every single one, the doc said, hey, I'm going to Vision Expo, or I'm going to Seco, we're buying new equipment, what should we get? And I was so surprised to see these docs. I mean, we bought equipment $60,000, we bought, eye care tonometers, $4,000, $5,000, and every single time they wanted to weigh in on what is the new graduate sentiment on purchasing new equipment. Now, for me, the thing that's really, really helped build a practice from my peers, from myself, is really standing out. And it's recreating that new patient experience. I mean, patient sits down next to you in the chair, and they go, oh, this person looks pretty young. I wonder if I'm going to get good care. And immediately, if you're able to start kind of reinventing that process, pulling out new equipment, talking new lingo, it's going to really be like the new way that they visualize and understand optometry. And so, it's not just a piece of equipment at the end of the day. It truly creates the patient experience. And I think every single new graduate who gets out in practice is going to start to pick up on that and notice that. So, be vocal with your senior doctor in the practice about what kind of equipment you want to use and why, and how that can bring an ROI to the practice. I mean, just simply asking, hey, do you not want to do the air puff this time? You'll get a massive, just a happy response from the patient. And the same thing, do you not want to stick your head inside of another, piece of equipment that, you got to watch the air balloon, go by? Same thing. And it's interesting what you said with iterative technology on that. It reminds me of Elon Musk when he updates the software in the Tesla. It's just push an update, and now the car can drive itself, or, new battery life and things like that. And so you guys have really stumbled upon something. I think that's truly amazing, and has, very adaptive means over time, for a very, very inexpensive cost in the grand scheme of it all.
No, thanks for that, Matt. We appreciate it. I mean, we work hard to continue to innovate, and hopefully you guys will be impressed with other things as they come out, other new products we come up with.
What do you guys have in the pipeline?
We're really just trying to stay ahead of the curve technologically. And we're also really cognizant of the back-end side in terms of how can we help do better on lead generation for docs. And so we're really actively working on these problems right now. So I think that stay tuned. A couple of cool things coming out soon. I can't wait to show them and share them with you guys.
Sure. Justin, what tips do you have, when it comes to just equipment purchasing, getting practice started that maybe relate to the SVOne and make it applicable here?
Well, I think for getting a practice started, the SVOne is a no-brainer. I mean, why would you want a traditional AR that costs 4 times as much, that has limited capabilities, potentials, and causes some anxiety in patients? Absolutely no reason for you to buy traditional AR equipment now that the SVOne is on the market and it's proven itself to be a winner over time. So I hate the word no-brainer, but I mean, there's no real reason in my mind to have that old school, traditional, archaic equipment when there's something new, innovative, that works extremely well, and it has the potential to even build upon its current usability and lead you in the directions that traditional equipment could possibly never do.
Mm-hmm. Joe Seculo asks, being a cutting-edge practice or a high-technology practice, are you threatened by the new wave of online opticals? For example, we know the players out there, and how do you take on this challenge? And by the way, I got a monocle on, seeing a lot better now. It's not a smart vision.
I got a Mad Geller beard on. So I can't do anything about this though. They don't have a nice hair option.
So yeah, Justin, what do you
So
think?
how do I feel about that? Um, well, that's definitely a point where we see the helpfulness and the harm, right? So it depends on how we as an industry kind of look at that technology and find ways to utilize it to potentially help our practice and our patients. We need to be inclusive in these new technologies and be willing to find those solutions. I think either sticking your head in the sand or trying to bury it under legislation is not going to be the way to go when we see this area of technology emerging in other aspects of healthcare. And it's almost at a point where now the government kind of cares more about what the experience is to the patients and how it impacts them. And if they're seeing the positive benefits and hearing the positive things from patients, in the early feedback, then it's almost impossible for us to kind of just either ignore it or eliminate it altogether. So the only real solution for us is left to embrace it and work with it and apply it in a way that is going to allow both the practice to prosper and for patient care to be enhanced.
Sure, and I could touch on that, and then I got a question for you, Mark, or Francis Liu does. You know, a good friend of mine, an optometrist up in Roseville and Sacramento area, Aaron Leck, who's just an incredible guy, really sees things in a different way. He loves the online competition, and he loves some of these competitors popping up, because what it does is it makes his practice seem that much more special, that much more high-end, and he's able to make a case for himself as to why his care is really phenomenal. And you know, Aaron is very much an adopter of new technologies. I'm not sure if he has an SVOne. I got to get him on the phone, but you know, and I think I can't agree more. When you know, if life gives you lemons, you got to make lemonade, kind of thing. And what we've got to look at is look at the competition and how do you set yourself apart from that and make it stand out, and not be afraid to address it to patients and say, look, these are the other people out there, these are the competitors, but this is why we're different. And it helps you to stand out rather than blend in. And if you can't stand out from that, then maybe adjusting a business model is important. But new graduates have not as much worry in that area because they can start fresh. Would you agree, Justin?
I think that new grads that are starting fresh also have a fresh mentality and a fresh outlook. We often see that the innovations come from people that don't have the years of baggage or the years of habit that are formed. So it's really exciting to know that these guys, and especially examples that you just gave, that are out there, because they're the ones that have the future visions in their heads of what optometry is going to be, and it's going to come to fruition through their acts of refinement and embracing the new technology, but also focusing on the experience of the in-office. That can't be a lost art. And I think for a lot of years, some of these guys that have had successful practices kind of got complacent doing things. And we know that if you're doing the same things over and over again and expecting different results, that's the definition of insanity. We have to continue to do new things in new ways to have different and improved upon results.
Mark, Francis Liu, Dr. Liu wants to know, does the SVOne work with Android with iPhone 6 Plus, and how does it store information on the cloud? And what are you guys doing in that approach for just storage of information?
That's a great question, and before I get into that though, Aaron is fantastic. He's actually one of our customers.
Oh, he is?
Yeah, he is, and he recently brought a second device that he got to a mission trip in India. I think last month he used it. So. No, Aaron's great, and I'm glad that you mentioned him. So, the question that Frank has, I think this is something that we need to address as a company that we're so bad at, is that the iPhone is included in the device. Mm-hmm. Now, I've given presentations where I've said that, and then usually afterwards, people will always ask me, I have an Android, I have an iPhone, can I still use it? Absolutely. You can use a flip phone for your personal phone. You can have a rotary phone, anything you want. You include the iPhone 5S. You never have to worry about it. It's built into the system like a medical device. So you're good to go with what we send you. And in terms of the back end, it's all HIPAA compliant, so you can feel rest assured and save your data on it.
Mm-hmm. Now, that's really cool from the back end, what you guys can do with data and things like that, and integrating into the doctor's office and stuff. And so I guess that becomes like a cloud-based storage at the end of the day. And are you guys expanding on that into the future?
Yeah, so I think as I mentioned, we have some really cool stuff coming out soon, and part of it is going to be revolving around what we can do on the cloud and using it as ways of getting new leads for doctors. So again,
Yeah.
that's one of those stay tuned for some really cool developments.
Sure. Now, in layman's terms, maybe there's a few pre-optometry students watching, or just very, first years and things like that. How does the actual technology work without giving away the special sauce? I mean, how is this getting such a great result without looking at, factoring in or being confounded by accommodation and some of the things that a pediatric patient will throw at you?
Great. So just on the core technology, it's called Shack Harmon wavefront sensing. So for people that aren't doctors, and the way that we explain it, if you were to get LASIK done, one of the last tests they do before they start lasing up your eye is to get a wavefront anerometer to measure the wavefront of your eye. So what this effectively means is that we shine light onto your retina, and then it bounces back through the vitreous, the crystalline lens. It encodes all the wavefront error of your eye, and then we can take that and map it out and look at how the light bends back. Because in an ideal scenario, the light would bounce back perfectly, but instead it bounced back with imperfections. And really, this is technology that was really first used in the 1970s in space for helping to image far away stars and other applications here in astronomy. And that was kind of how I used it back then after I left grad school, and I think Yao Ping had some experience with that with my co-founder. Now, in terms of...
Are you on the moon right now? Are you on the moon right now?
No. But in terms of accommodation, so, not to get into too much detail, but, what happens, for those that aren't doctors, is that as you focus closer up, the optical power of your system changes, right? So what might be a good prescription 10 feet away wouldn't be the same prescription, because your body, your whole optical system is accommodating for looking close. And the younger you are, the stronger that is. And so the neat thing with our device is, if you notice here, is that you can actually have one eye look out and focus onto a target. And what this allows your optical system to do is focus out to a distance and to give you that prescription for when you are looking out far, which is what you want to get. So this works, really well. And for our first study at SUNY, we had 18 to 35-year-olds, and it showed really great results with accommodation. In the most recent study I can't get into, it was fantastic. And then all the anecdotal stuff we get from our customers who use it in pediatrics, it's fantastic for reducing accommodation.
Got it. Yeah, guys, and if you want to take a demo of the device or speak with one of the folks from Smart Vision Labs, just go on newgradoptometry.com, and on the right-hand side you'll see a form you can fill out. Justin, what are maybe some things you could touch on, practice, maybe not related to the SVOne in particular, surrounding the space that it's in?
Say that one more time. There was a little bit of feedback and echo.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it was my end. Just not in regards perhaps specifically to the SVOne, but practice pearls maybe, oh wait, we got Francis again. How does the SVOne work with a keratoconus patient? Irregular stigmatism may cause issues, and then we'll get into that question, Justin. Mark, can you touch on that one?
Yeah, so we can measure astigmatism just fine. We have data that shows that in the original study. We can go up to plus or minus 10 diopter sphere, and then 5 diopters of SIL.
Got it. Awesome. So Justin, just practice pearls in relation to either getting started in practice in purchasing equipment, or why someone needs to go a route of saving dollars and saving cents when it comes to getting started, and maybe why the SVOne would be ideal from a financial, business, you name it, side of things.
So obviously the SVOne, it's a piece of equipment that you need, whether it's a traditional piece of equipment that costs 4 times as much as it, or the SVOne, which is only $3,900. You're going to need an autorefractor. Practicing optometry without an autorefractor is, when I was in school, they always said that retinoscopy is a way to go. Autorefractors aren't to be utilized for every patient. I don't know whatever they told me, but they downplayed and poo-pooed almost using an AR on every patient.
Yeah.
In the real world, we use AR on everybody, right? It's a starting point. It allows us a comparison point. So why not make the experience better? Why not make it easier on your pocket? And why not just enhance it? I mean, like I said earlier, there's no reason for me to utilize a traditional AR unit anymore. Now, when you start cold, and you have money to repay on a regular basis, they also want secondary substantial income streams, right? So if you're in a cold start practice and you're there 7 days a week, but you only have 6 patients the whole week, you're going to have problems paying your bills. So what they want to see you is have at least 2 days out of the office with guaranteed income coming in. So you need to be generating steady revenue from another source. What Mark's SVOne device allows you to do is not be tied to another practice. You can go out there and practice mobile optometry where you're still your own boss, creating your own schedule, but you have now the ability to have a secondary source of income, if not a complete secondary business that you're now developing, free from any of the limitations that you may have working for somebody else. So not only does it do the cost thing, not only does it do the patient experience thing, not only does it make sure the results are super accurate, but now you also have the freedom and flexibility to have that secondary source of revenue that oftentimes loans require you to have.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I could see how that could be for, you touched on before how to start the practice for less than 15K, and I guess there's your core pieces of equipment there, and it's interesting though, just reinventing that process. Do you think you're going to take this further, being on the road and kind of setting up just I think perhaps the first one to there maybe have been other people who did this type of thing, but not in a Justin Bazan type of way.
Yeah, you always know that there's going to be a little special twist on it, something that makes it my own. I can tell you right now, though, that the concept of exploring almost a pop-up care or an on-site care center in a company is not a new concept. And I guarantee you that there are other companies out there that are developing this model of practice. What it comes down to is, do you want to be an employee and seeing patients in this model under their circumstances, or maybe you want to kind of blaze your own path and be a trailblazer in developing this new business model on your own. So there's definitely people working on it, and I hope some of you guys out there right now will work on it. And whether that's incorporating mobile optometry, traditional optometry, or even telemedicine. So a lot of exciting things on the horizon, a lot of potential, and it's going to be up to some of you creative thinkers that are listening right now to help drive things in a new direction and strengthen the current modes of practice that we have.
Yeah, I cut out there for a second. I'm back now, but I assumed you answered the question well. You always do.
Thank you.
I guess Mark, maybe to shifting gears a little bit. There's obviously a ton of information out there about your company. What kind of just entrepreneurial startup type stuff? I mean, I know my generation loves hearing about that stuff and loves hearing about the entrepreneurial innovation side. What can you touch on there? Both maybe lessons learned from your company and people who want to go beyond just the exam room.
That's a great question. Can you hear me? Am I muted?
You're good. I've got you.
Good.
Yeah, the experience that we've had here has been an absolute blast for the company. I mean, everyone that works for our company is a real mission focused. They love that we can make a dent in the universe. That we've had a number of devices go out to mission trips. People are always blogging about what they're doing with the SVOne. How we're now going into schools throughout New York City once or twice a month with doctors, and now we're bringing in some SUNY second, third, and fourth years to help. And I'm really excited about that type of work. And so, coming here is, being that a big focus is it's great to get up every day and know that what we're doing is making a difference. Now, in terms of being entrepreneurial, I think the beginning of this talk, what Justin was talking about, the focus and learning is so key. The other side of it is just being ultra focused on one or two goals and really trying to figure out what you're trying to do. So we had, for our company, we had a really great idea about a technology. And then the other side of it was to really find where is the best use case for it today. And one of the things that I would think that lessons learned was not really having that second part nailed sooner. But what we ultimately did is we went out there into the market and talked to our customers. And we interviewed at least 100 optometrists, largely SUNY-ish because we were in New York, but then we went out and made visits to groups in Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Connecticut, and on the phone with groups everywhere else, just to really learn about their needs. And I think when you understand what the customers want, it helps you make a better product, and even for the experience too. And the second part of it is that we first started selling the device. We created a pre-sale, we created some buzz, we had limited availability, and that was largely by design because we wanted to understand how the first users would use the technology and what it would look like. And we learned so much from that first group, and we gave them a huge price cut because of that. This is the group that kind of taught us how people. Thank you, Justin. How people are using it, and we didn't even know that nursing homes was a potential avenue of business for optometrists. Mm-hmm. And one of our larger use cases are doctors taking these to nursing homes, which is exciting. It's another great public health use of this technology. Just imagine if you are bedridden, you're stuck in a wheelchair, your eyes are even more important than ever before. And now there's an opportunity to get tested easily, especially people that can't really respond. Our device is objective. It gives you the numbers. So if you can't respond back, you can have a much better feeling that you have the right prescription for these people. Otherwise, what are you going to do? So it's exciting to see the use cases. And so I would recommend that anyone that's looking down the entrepreneurial road, starting your own practice or your own company, is really think about your customer, interview, have assumptions, break your own assumptions. Don't be scared to kind of rip up everything you thought of. Because if not, you're just going to fail. I mean, you have to be really, willing to kind of burn everything based on your learnings. Else, again, someone else is going to do it better. So, I just, get out there and learn as much as you can.
Yeah, definitely can. Just sage advice right there. I mean, Ben Horowitz, a great CEO, VC, talks about people, products, and then profits in that order of importance. And I can't underestimate the importance of talking to your users. And in a case of co-founder of Covalent Careers, we talk with users every single day. But I so seldomly hear about optometrists who are actually taking a step outside of the practice to talk to their patients to find out specifically what they like and don't like, and running and really just thorough user tests, field studies, focus groups on how they can improve their practice. A lot of times I see ODs just kind of go into practice, they set it and forget it, and they think that the way that they're practicing is the ultimate gospel on the way it is, and it's just not how it is. It's not how you develop an iterative business that grows with what the consumer needs are. And so I think a lot of the problems in optometry are because it kind of escaped us, and we got complacent rather than learning about what they want and don't want. And even when they did tell us that they hate the air puff, we still did very little about it. And it's great to see that. So I think anyone who's really going into business, that's something Mark's advice is so key. Talk to your customers and outside the exam chair. Schedule time with them to be in a different type of environment, not where they feel compelled, and learn about what it means to use your test or learn about someone rather than just asking kind of biased questions. How do you get real, true, and raw feedback from people? And I think you'll see practices excelling in optometry kind of fixing a lot of its own problems through that type of customer talking with customers. Justin, maybe you've done some of that in the past?
Just a little bit. I can tell you right now that your customers are telling you things without you even having to ask them. So what I'm speaking about specifically is the user review platforms. Whether you like it or not, you're being scrutinized online. So platforms like Yelp don't even require you to give an authorization or approval or facilitate a user review. There are definitely things being said about you that you need to pay attention and tune into. If I'm looking at your practice and I'm reading reviews and 4 people said your breath stinks, guess what? Brush your teeth or get a shield for your slit lamp, because they're coming in and they're the ones that are getting the feedback that we should be paying attention to, so we can monitor, adjust, make change, and innovate.
Sure. Sure. Well, I want to close it out. We had some really awesome questions from so many people. I mean, they really just, so many we couldn't get around to because, you know, we're already 20 minutes over. And we can definitely address these and have Dr. Bazan on again. You know, being on the road, Justin, I'm sure we can do one of these, pop up whenever we want and do it. But
I'd love to.
Dr. Justin,
Absolutely.
yeah, Dr. Justin Bazan, if you want to find out more about what he's done, just Google him and you'll find some great information. Go to smartvisionlabs.com to see more about the SVOne device. Newgradoptometry.com also we've got a couple interviews with Mark and his team. Overall, I'll just thank you guys for jumping on. I can't stress enough how we really choose to only have people that New Grad Optometry really believes in or wants to promote the message of. And so, Dr. Bazan, love the entrepreneurial side of things you're doing, how you're really kind of changing the status quo. Mark and everyone at Smart Vision Labs, I mean, what more can be said than just looking at the device that you guys have developed and just finally saying, well, it's about time someone did this. So definitely commend you guys. Keep up the great work. And if anyone wants to watch this, it's of course recorded and will be hosted on YouTube forever and ever and ever. So thank you guys. If you guys want to add in any other points, maybe how they could find you.
I'm easy. Justin Bazan, Google me. There'll be a bunch of info. Or check out Park Slope Eye, especially our Facebook page if you want to see some of the things that we implement.
Great.
Yeah, Matt,
Or read our Yelp reviews. We happen probably if you read the Yelp reviews, you'll really get a sense of what we do.
Yeah, Matt, thanks so much for having me on. You can go to our website, smartvisionlabs.com. You can also email me with any questions at mark@smartvisionlabs.com. It's Mark with a C. This is a lot of fun. Look forward to seeing you at the next show. And Justin, I'm sure I'll see you in an airport sometime soon.
Probably so. Thank you so much, Mark. Great job, everyone.
Take care, guys. Great hanging out with you.
Have a good night, Rob.
Take care, guys.
Bye, guys.